Hey, I'm James from Smokai Barbecue, and today we are talking about the best results for cold smoking on your Kamado style grill. And I'll be comparing the good old-fashioned inexpensive pellet tube smoker versus the high-end costing 22 times more, a dedicated cold smoke generator. But looking at the price of this, I actually think I might even have a better option as number 3. So we're going to do a 3-way test to find out which is best. And since it's been a couple years since I've done a cold smoking video, I've also discovered a number of mistakes that new to cold smoking folks on a Kamado style grill can make. So I'm going to go through some of those mistakes to make sure you get the absolute best possible result. Let's get into it. I love my Kamado style grills, but if there's one thing that science goes against the grain, what's good in a Kamado style grill, it has to be cold smoking. This is where physics is working against us. Energy efficient ceramic Kamados with limited airflow can be very difficult to achieve cold smoking temperatures. And the only way that we've been able to get good cold smoke in the past is relying on something like a cold smoking tube. This is one I picked up at Amazon for $15, and it's what I've used for years on the channel when wanting to attempt cold smoke, so I don't run the risk of increasing the temperatures inside of my grill, what you would normally get with a live fire. That is until I saw this come out. This is the Smokai cold smoke generator. It's from New Zealand, and my Facebook page has been filled with ads over the last couple years. So I went out and bought one for myself. And to my surprise, by the time it got to my door after taxes from New Zealand and international shipping, this thing cost me $332. So this is not inexpensive, and at 22 times more the cost than the simple pellet tube smoker. I can't help but wonder, is this good purchase or bad purchase? But that actually got me wondering about idea number 3, because for around the same money, this is about $259 US, this is my FireBoard Drive bundle. You add a blower to this and you can turn any Kamado into a smart grill. And there's a couple of advantages. So if we're going to spend this kind of money, wouldn't it be nice if you could do everything from cold smoking to what I would normally use my FireBoard Drive for is things like an overnight brisket, or it has programmable options. Like if I want to cook my brisket to a certain point and then kill the fire and bring it down to a hot holding oven. These are all things that the FireBoard Drive has proven itself more than capable of in numerous tests that I've done. And I mentioned turn any grill into a smart grill. This is also a great value. Kamado Joe, for example, has things like the Connected Joe, and so you're saving a few $100 and getting all the benefit of a smart connected grill. Plus, the FireBoard Drive has a charge. It can run our Kamado for up to 30 hours, and it doesn't need a dedicated power source. You don't need an extension cord outside, and you don't run any of the risks when it comes to the rain or the elements. Not that I need to worry about that today. In fact, it's freezing is more of my problem, but something like the FireBoard Drive has an IP67 rating. Things like the Kamado Joe Connected Joe, for example, have an IPX4 rating, which is light splashing, otherwise not recommended. And products like the Smokai don't even list it on their website, so I had to reach out and ask, and I got an email back saying, don't even use it in the rain. So there's a couple advantages on paper, at least, for the FireBoard, and I think I've come up with a game plan on how to get it to run at record low temperatures and get an amazing smoke result. So let me show you how we're going to set up each of our 3 grills for our cold smoke, get our cheese on, and then we will dive into some of the common mistakes when it comes to cold smoking while we've got our cheese on to make sure that you avoid some of these common mistakes when you are ready to tackle some cold smoking in your Kamado style grill. Let's start with the easy peasy one first, which is the pellet tube smoker. So you can use this in any style grill. One of the things that I do like to do though is use a deflector plate. So you can see I'm in the process of testing a new accessory from Ceramic Grill Store that just came out for the Mini Max, and I'm trying to do a modified version of my double indirect setup, but I do need to order a second 10-inch stone. I bought just one, and I was using my Kamado Joe soapstone as my second level, but it's a little bit too thick to give me the clearance from the cooking grate that I'm after. So more to come in the future about this double indirect setup for small Kamados. Drop this back on, lift everything out. And whether you have something like a kick-ash basket and a kick-ash can or not, the idea will be the same, where what we'll do is drop in our pellet tube smoker, add in some pellets, light those with a torch, And once you can see that those are burning and the flame didn't go out the minute that I took the torch away, I know that I've got enough going to continue with our cold smoking. So I've got my bottom vent all the way open. I'm just gonna blow this out, lay it down on its side, drop back in my grids, and our Mini Max is ready to go. Let me show you the Smokai setup. So for something like our cold smoked cheese, I won't need to fill the entire chamber, but I'm gonna add some pellets. And then once I get a base of pellets, I can layer in some small wood splits. So I broke down some smoking wood into really small pieces. I can toss that in there and then cover that up with some more pellets. So we get a mix of pellet and wood smoke. Add on our lid. Open up my vent here on the base of my Kamado Joe Big Joe. Tighten the wing nuts. Start my fire here on the side. So this is the battery operated fan so that I can go cordless anywhere without, again, requiring a 120 volt power. So slide on our tube here, power that up. And so you can see we've got 4 lights, so I can adjust the fan from level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So if we want more smoke, we would go with a little bit lower of a fan, but if we're having a hard time keeping the pellets ignited, we can bump that up. So I'm gonna start at level 2, see how we're doing, set this aside away from the heat. Okay, we can already see we've got some cold smoke rolling. I'm just gonna leave everything open till we're ready to get our cheese on so I don't add any heat. In terms of the setup, I've removed any ash from the kick ash can, shaken out the basket so everything is clean, so there's nothing in the base of our Kamado. And then I've installed the raised rack so that we've got, again, a little bit more protection from our set of deflectors down below. And the benefit of being in a frozen tundra, taking some water, adding some ice cubes, in 2 hours, we've got a completely frozen water pan. So I'm just gonna slide this underneath for, again, just a little bit more protection if we are getting any heat from the cold smoke generator coming up to make sure that our cheese doesn't melt. I'll leave this open just for now while we go and set up the FireBoard so we're not getting any heat built into our ceramics. Okay, for our FireBoard setup, this is going to be the only actual live fire setup we have. So let me show you what I came up with here. So I've already cleaned out my big green egg and removed the kick ash basket. And carefully here, I don't want to disturb it all, but I built a small little sort of campfire using really small wood splits that I broke down with the hatchet just to make sure that we get nice clean combustion and place those underneath. So I'll just drop this back down and you'll notice I'm actually going to build the fire as far away from the cheese as possible to help keep our temperatures down. And I built that fire in my kick ash can, place that back down. I'm gonna add in a couple wood pellets, the same ones that I'm using in the other 2 examples, just to make sure that we don't get or notice a lack of the same smoke profile. So those will just be mixed in as we go. Grab my grill torch, start our coals here. I forgot to mention, you noticed I'm using leftover charcoal. I've done some tests in the past. Used charcoal versus new charcoal has a lot less energy potential. And from memory, I'll put the stat up if I'm wrong, but it's something like 30% less heat from used charcoal. So by going with used charcoal, I know it will burn, and it'll burn just as long as before, but it's going to have less energy output, which is again going to be something that helps us with keeping our temperatures low. So this is optional if you don't have it, but like I did with my brisket double indirect setup, I'm gonna drop in a ceramic grill store spider on the bottom of my expander, which is gonna give me the ability to hang a second set of deflectors. So what I'm doing here, if you haven't seen this by the way, is called my double indirect setup, because this is going to just remove even more energy. I know from infrared temperatures at higher temps, not what we're going for today, but if I had set my egg to 270 degrees Fahrenheit, the average surface temperature of our deflectors sitting below our food is about 550 degrees Fahrenheit. When I go with double indirect and I add an air gap, so this is just a bit more than the thickness of my hand, that's going to reduce the temperature of the next set of stones, the stock stones, by over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So these happen to be from my old large green egg. If you were, again, using a large egg, you would go down to the Minimax, and the Minimax that I showed you earlier, I need to order a second 10-inch stone to be able to pull it off, and I think we'll be in business. Let me grab our next set of deflectors. I'm also going to intentionally here pull the stones forward, so that where we've got our fire in the back is going to come up and over. I'll do the same thing with the second set of stones. Drop them in the expander, and I'll show you the method for my madness on this in a second. And once again, I'm pulling them towards the front. So we are nearly sealed off at the front, open on the sides, and then there's more than a hand's width back where our actual fire is. Get our cooking grates, and this is actually where I want the FireBoard to see temperature and not continue to run the fan hotter than it needs to. So I'm actually going to upside down install the FireBoard ambient probe, like so. Slide right to the back, top part of our expander, and just like before, I've got some ice already in a pan, frozen, to keep our cheese cool, and I'll place this at the front where, again, I will have that cheese so that we're not getting too much ambient temperature from that. And we're gonna get the smoke coming out back and venting out the top of our regulator cap. I'm gonna install our drive blower. I've got the damper down to about 25% open. Drop that in, close our vents. Okay, so we've got smoke rolling on all three Kamado grills. Now you'll notice a difference with the vents. So our Minimax, which has the pellet tube smoker, I want the top vent and bottom vent all the way open so that we, again, allow that pellet tube smoker to continue to burn. The Smokai, while it has the assistance of that fan blowing some air to keep those pellets burning, again, instructions, we want our top damper all the way open like you see on my Big Joe Series 3. The only difference here is the regulator cap on my Big Green Egg Extra Large, where I've got that just barely open. So that is so that the FireBoard can actually control that. If I was to leave that all the way open, the fan would bring it up to temperature, but then the natural draw of the airflow would just allow those temperatures to increase. So as a general rule of thumb, you want to set your vents about 25% less than where you would normally go. And since we're going for record lows here, I've set it to 100 degrees Fahrenheit by placing the probe inverted at the back near the fire. I think that's going to help give us the best chance for some amazing cold smoke results in a Kamado style grill. I've also pulled the cheese out of the refrigerator, and I will pick this up in our next chapter here, which is some best practices and mistakes. But one of the things you want to do, no matter what type of cheese you'll be cold smoking, is to at least let that sit on something like this, a drying rack in the refrigerator overnight, so it starts to dry out. We'll get an even better result. Let's go get these on our Minimax, on our Big Joe, and last but not least, our extra large egg, which you can see is warming up. We are almost at our 100 degree Fahrenheit set point. Add our cheese, and I'm just going to drop in a spare probe that I have and use my FireBoard Spark. So I'm not using this in any way to control the drive, which is the probe that we placed upside down at the back. That's going to be controlling the pit temperatures, but I'm curious at what temperature we're running at here with the ice bath and everything underneath. So this will just give us the ability to chart that once everything's closed up and see what temperature our cheese is actually at with this live fire setup. Okay, go. So now that we have our cheese on, which is going to be cold smoking for about 2 hours, that's a great time for cheese. You can always dial up and dial down based on your individual smoke preferences. Sometimes you'll see a recipe as like 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, no matter where you fall on that gamut. It could be a little bit like, how do you like your coffee? If you put 100 people in a room and say, does everyone like the exact same coffee? You're not going to get a consensus, and the same is true with smoke profiles. So a good general point to start with is about 2 hours. And if you find your family says, wow, I wish I like a lot more smoke, you can increase increase the time. And if 2 hours is a little bit too much, you can always dial that back down in the future. But as a happy medium, 2 hours is a great place to start. So a couple best practices. So one, like I am doing here, cold weather makes this much easier than doing this in the dead of summer. If it was in the middle of July and we're up over 100 degrees ambient temperature, this is going to be much more difficult to do, especially since many cheeses have a melting point of around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That doesn't necessarily mean if our ambient temperatures are 90 degrees Fahrenheit that the cheese is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but it'll eventually catch up and it will melt and potentially undo some of the things that we're trying to achieve from getting great cold smoke results. The second thing that you want to pay attention to is clean your grates. I can't believe how many times I hear about this, or people say, I'm not getting the flavor profile that I want. And I don't always show that in the videos, but spending a couple minutes to clean your grates, particularly on sensitive things like bread or cheese, they will absorb whatever flavor is left on your grill. So whether that be ribs, brisket, you name it, burgers, if we don't want our cheese to taste like that, take the time to do that. And so before I got everything started today, I used my Grill Blazer grill gun, just burnt off any leftover elements to soften them up, used a wire brush. I'm using a thick bristle brush, not one that I have to worry about any bristles getting stuck on our grates and ending up in our food, as well as some paper towel to get those grates as clean as possible to make sure that the flavor that we're getting is just cheese and smoke and not whatever is left over on our grill. Third, I mentioned this just as we were getting our cheese on, but drying your cheese, so opening it up out of the package and letting that sit in the refrigerator overnight will help get you an even better result. And while we're talking about cheese, all cheeses are not created equal. So go for a denser cheese, and if you can find an aged. So I picked up, these are all Gouda examples from Costco, and not just Gouda, but aged Gouda, as the aged Gouda is denser than the regular sort of mild Gouda. You can sort of tell by poking the package. If it's soft and pliable, that's going to be more difficult to not get to the internal melting point. So harder, denser cheeses like cheddar, Parmesan, and Gouda, along with anything aged, can be a much easier cheese selection. And even though you can smoke things like blue cheese and some of those other softer ones, check the melting point. Grilled halloumi is another great option, as it can withstand some of those temperatures and not completely lose its structure. But if you're looking for a great place to start, our family loves the way that smoked Gouda comes out after about 2 hours of smoke. Then next to it, you saw when we were setting up here, even when we're using a pellet tube smoker, use your heat deflectors. You may not think that this is necessary, but even something like a pellet tube smoker is generating heat that can raise the temperature slowly inside of your Kamado. And if it was just pellet tube and cheese, we would reach the melting point much quicker if we didn't have our heat deflectors installed. The other thing you also saw me doing here is adding in an ice tray. This will again just help delay the time that our cheese is going to melt. Especially with a live fire, we'll eventually reach the spot where our cheese is going to melt. We want to buy ourselves as much time as possible before that happens. And so adding in an ice cube tray bath or a frozen water bath will help prolong that time. And last but not least, wait. Cold smoked cheese is something that sits better after 3 days in the refrigerator, almost as a minimum, versus enjoying it right away. And many people like to wait weeks and sometimes months before they dive into that. And so I'll use the analogy here like perfume. If you put this on first thing in the morning and you walk into another room, everybody's like, whoa, that's really strong. If you were to go to bed the next day and walk into the room, you haven't done anything, that perfume's almost completely gone. It's dissipated. And the same is true here with smoke, where this can be absorbed into the cheese and mellow out. And what is maybe harsh and too strong, if we were to enjoy this cheese right away, can become very pleasant and mild, and we get sort of the best flavor notes are what's left after a couple days, even 3 days at a minimum, and we'll get a far better result. So if you ever cold smoke something and you said, I don't like that flavor at all, try letting it mellow out a little bit longer. So that's actually going to be my next step, where I'm going to let these cold smoke for a couple hours, wrap them up, put them in the refrigerator. I'll mark which one is each, and I will see you in 3 days. So while I might need to wait 72 hours for you, it'll go by just like that. It's so cold I can't even snap my fingers. I'll see you then. So our cheese has been in the refrigerator for 4 days. We wanted a minimum of 3 days, and timing worked out that we were able to get an extra day before coming back for our taste test. So I have laid out our cheese and labeled them so you can tell what's there. And I know what's there, but Sarah, my wife, inside, and good reason she's inside, is just about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature has dropped even more. That's negative 18 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world. So it is very cold. In fact, today would have been an even better day to do the cold smoking itself, since it is incredibly frigid. I'm losing dexterity in the hands just standing here, but I've got our 3 cheeses laid out. They all look identical on the surface, and we'll get Sarah's smoke sensitive taste buds to help us decide which is better, different, or if she can even tell a difference between our 3 different methods at wildly different price points. Let me go get her. Welcome outside.
It's so cold.
Thanks for coming out.
Better be worth it.
Well, we got some cold smoked cheese.
Yum, that's good.
So this may be the fastest taste test we ever do.
I hope so.
It's so cold. All right, well, let me get some samples. So we have cheese 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what order we have, but one of them was done with the pellet tube smoker. The other one is a dedicated smoke generator, which is supposed to do the same thing, but it costs 22 times more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I added a third idea, which I think for comparable money, but it's not meant for cold smoking, option number 3.
Okay.
So I'm going to get you to taste the 3 cheeses, get a sample before they freeze.
Yeah.
And tell us your honest opinions.
All right. Need to cut quicker.
Yeah, I'm
So cool.
I'm losing hand feeling.
All right.
Whew. All right,
Okay, this
start us
one?
off? Sure.
Okay.
Cheers. Oh.
I know, I hate quick.
So
Okay.
this is an aged Gouda, so it's gonna be a little bit stronger than last time.
Sorry, that's so bad. It's a little strong. Okay.
The second one.
See what I think. Okay. Okay. That one is way different.
It's a lot different.
Okay. I definitely, the smoke didn't hit me right away like the first one.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, I feel like we need to try the last one and then decide what we
Okay.
think.
Yeah. Our brain is freezing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cheers this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's different again. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Oh. Actually, how much
Different.
spread
All 3 are.
there is in all 3.
And it's all the same Gouda.
Same Gouda. Same amount of smoke time, same amount of rest time.
Okay. This first one?
Yes.
I didn't love that one. That one, the smoke was almost like not great. It didn't add to it. Like I'd rather, yeah. I didn't love that one.
That was harshest.
Yeah, that was the harshest, and I
100%
was
agree.
just like, I don't know that I'd like that.
So that is the harshest. So
Okay.
actually, I won't tell you what's
And
what.
then these 2, I felt like this one almost, I didn't really taste the smoke in the middle one. Like it did a little bit. Like I tasted it. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely lighter. And maybe that's because I tried this one first, that it compared. But no, even like, I'll try another one just because.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smoke is definitely better on this one than the first one.
I agree. And then you do this one again?
Yeah, because they're close.
They are very close. I was very close.
It's so close. I honestly, though, I think I like this one a little better. Like, they're so close, it's hard to tell. I definitely don't love this one.
The only thing that's not close
is that one. And it was like a bitter smoke.
Very
like
wet.
it almost tasted like when you were first learning barbecue 20 years ago and over smoked our cheese dip.
If smoke makes cheese
I'm
better,
sorry.
yeah, right?
These ones though are great.
That's right. So,
I think this one maybe just a touch more.
yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little more.
So let me tell you what's what.
Okay.
So the most affordable option,
Okay.
which is easiest anybody can do cold smoking, is a pellet tube. So that's actually this one.
Okay.
But even at 2 hours, the risk that you run with a pellet tube smoker is that sort of, not acidic, but bitter smoke that you get.
Yeah.
And
It kind of hit me right away.
even with the 4 days to mellow out, that's
Yeah.
still, maybe a month later, it might,
It might go away, I don't know.
That is still, like I use the analogy, like licking a tree or an ashtray. It's
It
got
was
a little
bitter.
bit of that
Yeah.
bitter smoke flavor.
Yeah.
Number 2 here
Okay.
is our Smokai cold smoke generator.
Yeah.
So if I compared the temperature, so the pellet tube eventually brought our grill up to just over 98 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So it was actually the hottest. Our coolest, the Smokai did what we wanted. It kept sort of the fire really low, but it was also in the biggest grill.
Okay.
In terms of, it's 4 inches taller than even my extra large egg. It was in just about 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And then in the 80 to 90 degree Fahrenheit range, but using a live fire, was the FireBoard. So we had these two as the closest option.
Okay.
And the reason I picked...
Oh, it's so cold. We need to hurry.
So the reason I picked this as an option is, while this is not made for cold smoking, I wanted to stress test it in a way that's not meant for cold smoking, because it can do so many other things. So
well, it was good.
They're both about $300.
Wow.
Which one would you pick?
I would go for this one, I think. Like,
I think so too.
I think just a little. Like, they were similar. This one, I'm sorry. That one I just didn't love. But these, I would say that one just a little bit more.
I'm 100% with you. So there you have it. Thanks,
all right,
Sarah,
we'll add it to the charcuterie later. All right, inside.
Inside, very much inside. Thanks so much for hanging out. No, I forgot to close. My brain froze. All right, we'll try one more time.
Okay.
Thanks so much for hanging out. And remember, don't be afraid to fire it up. And if not, spend inside by the fireplace.
Yes.
We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.